Okay, looks like we just started. Well, hopefully you can hang on. We're at the end of the day, so hopefully should get you engaged here in the last session and get your brain thinking and give you some hopefully perhaps a new tool that some of you maybe haven't used before to learn and take back to your work site. So thank you to all my colleagues who introduced themselves. I know a lot of you on this call. Some of you I don't, so I'll get to know you a little bit more here over the next hour or so. As Liz mentioned, I do a lot of work with our Department of Health and colleagues through different aspects. And I'm based in Sioux Falls. And so I was invited by Enid and asked to speak with you all today about mind mapping. And so some of you maybe have done this before and some of you perhaps haven't. So this will be either a refresher for you or something new for you to kind of get to know. So I am going to share my slides here and we'll get going here and then kind of take you through the session for what's going to happen today. And let's see here if I can see myself. How's my computer doing? I think let's see, I cannot see anybody. Okay. Oh. Liz, can you see my slides? I can't see anybody for some reason.
I don't see them.
No.
I can.
Okay, give me just a second here.
If you need me to pull them on my end, just let me know. I'll get them opened here.
Let's try this. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to start them and we'll try this again. You see those?
Yeah. Yep. Looks
Okay.
good.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks for all your patience. The world of technology here. So I'm going to hide myself so you don't have to look at me if you look at the slides while we're talking here, and then just really invite you to have conversation. And this is, ask any questions you have throughout that. As I'm sure you've been doing throughout the day, I invite you to use the chat for any questions you might have. And then also going to get you to use some of your emojis too. So get you involved in a little different ways as well too. So we'll get going here and have a great session, hopefully. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm here to talk with you about mind mapping. And we'll get my technology to work. So to give you an overview about the session this afternoon, give you just an overview of what mind mapping is. And again, some of you may already be familiar with it. Talk about when to use mind mapping. Also give you some examples of mind mapping that have been done locally, statewide, and even through research. Also talk about steps to develop a mind map. And Enid will give you an overview about Workwell moving forward to help inform some of the breakout sessions that we'll be doing today. And then put you all in a breakout room today to actually develop a mind map. And so we have some topics that we'll share with you, and then we'll also invite you to share some additional ideas for what to develop those around. And then we'll ask you to report out on from your breakout room on your mind map. And then we'll just talk about some mind mapping resources and then any questions or answers you might have for that today as well. So stay with us and hopefully you can get engaged and learn something new or refresh your brain there. So what I wanted to talk about first of all is how your brain works. So you've probably often heard that how our brain works. We have a left brain and a right brain. And so if you're not familiar, we tend to see the literature shows you that the left brain is more logical, sequential, rational, analytical. So if any of you are analytical, which I am, I probably would see myself more as a left brain thinker. That's how my brain works. And then when we look at the right brain, we're seeing that more as random. It's intuitive, holistic, synthesizing, more subjective. And so the idea though is that we know that they don't work independently of each other. Our left and right side of our brain, and this is what the literature shows too, they don't work independently of each other, but there are certain ways that our brain is designed to work in how we do our work, how we take notes, how we participate in our daily lives, and even in worksite wellness and our employee wellness. So the important part to think through this perspective is how our brain works when we apply that to mind mapping. And that's really where this perspective comes in from this, and how I'll kind of explain this as we move forward here. So what I'm going to invite you to do, and I'm just going to show myself here, is to use your little emoji. And I just want to know let's see, let's do show of hand. Who is a left brain thinker? If you can find your little emoji in the bottom right. Any of my left brain thinkers? We got one. Let's see, we got some stuff in the chat too. All right, right, okay. So then by limited response to left brain, I'm gonna don't vote. Okay, a little bit about that. Okay, then. All right. Well, I'm gonna assume you're all either left or right or a little bit of both. But those are things to kind of think about as we move forward through the session here today. Okay, looks like I got a note that I froze. Can you hear me now? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Just give me a heads up if you can't hear me. So perhaps you didn't hear me, but I was asking you to raise your hand if you were a right brain thinker. So things to think about as we're moving forward here today with the session. All right. So this is a quote from the inventor of the mind map. So this is his quote. Tony BUZAN is the inventor of the mind map. Basically, how he defines it as far as what the value of mind mapping is. So normal linear note taking and writing will put, and maybe it does to you, puts you in a semi-hypnotic trance. I'm sure sometimes we all experience that. While mind mapping will greatly enhance your left and right brain cognitive skills to continue to move forward with that. And so those are things that we'll touch on more here today and really show you, oh, excuse me, sorry. My computer is being difficult today. We'll go back up here. Okay, so want to give you a little bit more information about Tony BUZAN, the inventor of the mind map. So he recently actually passed away, but he's an author, educational consultant, and he really over his career promoted mental literacy and mnemonic systems. And in 2006, he launched a program to support mind mapping. There's actually a World Mind Mapping Day. Actually, I just discovered this when I was doing some research for this the other day. It's in June. You can actually visit his website, which is actually supported now by obviously other entities. But you also can take a look at his TED Talk, and he really talks a little bit more about mind mapping and the value of that. And so, so that's really, I think, an exciting thing to think through how you can utilize this tool for a lot of different aspects of your work. So when we talk about mind mapping, what is it? In reality, it's a graphical diagram. It's really used to link and group and organize ideas, thoughts, concepts, and actions, information into connected pattern around a single issue. Really what it's doing is literally creating a map of your thoughts. And so if some of you are visual thinkers or visual people, I'm a visual person, it really takes what your words are and puts it on paper, but it puts them in a way that our brain actually thinks, and it's designed to help follow the nonlinear path that our brain is designed to think around. And so typically a mind map is created around a single issue. And it can often be drawn or created as an image. What we'll do today is actually using a computer generated one, but you'll find, as I'll talk through today, a lot more of these can be done hand drawn, and you may find some opportunities to utilize those in different capacities. And so really it's a technique based on memory, creativity, comprehension, and understanding. And really it just simply helps in what the brain does naturally. And they're designed to be developed around how our brain thinks, how we're naturally designed to think. So when do we use those? There's a lot of different ways you can use the mind map, as I'll talk a little bit more about this moving forward. You can use those design solutions to existing problems. So certainly a very good brainstorming tool. If you have used one before, you may have found that. Perhaps to create a new process. And as we'll talk more about how they're designed, you'll get an idea of how that can help support that. Perhaps to explore, develop objectives for a strategic goal. Again, as I'll explain to this, it's really associations between topics to really address that specific topic. It's also been used for health education, which I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Also qualitative data analysis, surprisingly if you're not familiar with that. And then I've also, through a lot of my research, just getting ready for this today, it's really used a lot in education. So not just health education, but education. And there's a lot of examples where it's been used with K through 12 systems, and certainly can be applied in many different ways. But it's really looked at kind of can be a long-term resource that can be used to support. So what I'm going to show you here is really just a general design of a mind map. Now, again, this is a computer generated one, but it gives an idea of how it looks. And I always like to think about mind maps around as like an umbrella. So everything kind of keeps going under each one and supports that overall focus of what you're looking at. And so typically a mind map starts with a central theme. So what thing you're trying to address, and I'll give you some examples as we move forward with this as well. And then we talk about some ideas that support that central theme. And so these are those associations. What things or sub-themes are going to address this central theme? And then you have sub-ideas that support that idea. So you can kind of see they just tend to, it's an umbrella where they tend to have associations between each one. But obviously, as you can see, they all intertwine to really address that central theme and can be used in a lot of different ways, as I mentioned before. So how do you mind map? And I am gonna, let's see, bear with me just 2 seconds here. My computer is being difficult there. So what happened here? We're gonna do, give me just a second, cancel. Lost all my notes to show you, talk to you guys. So we may just have to go with what we have here. There we go. Okay, give me just a second. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, make sure I'm telling you the right things here. Okay, so how do you mind map? So as you can see here, what I just showed you on the previous slide was computer generated, but this is, as you can see, would technically, I mean, obviously this looks like it's computer generated, but you can physically draw this. But you can see there's a lot of different pieces involved with that, and certainly when this particular example we're looking at is really talking about how do you mind map. So this is the topic. This is the topic of this mind map. Technology on a, what day are we on? Tuesday. All right. So first of all, central theme. So central image, central theme. You see that highlighted here. So this is the kind of that first step, and I'll dig deeper into this here in some following slides. So that's our central theme. That's what this mind map is being addressed around. Secondly, you're looking at those subheadings or those branches is what we tend to like to talk about with mind maps. And as you see, mind maps tend to be more curved lines. So this isn't just kind of a straight, our brain thinks in curved lines. So this is how mind maps are used to being developed. And then we also have subtopics. So we, for example, how do we mind map? Well, we use color. So this is that's a subheading or that branch. Well, the question is, well, why? Well, we use color because they separate ideas, they highlight similar ideas, they're more interesting, and they're fun. And so you can get the idea of how these are all interconnected, but they're also associations with each other. And so when we look at the 5 essential characteristics of mind mapping, looking at first the main idea, subject or focus is crystallized in that central image. The main theme radiates out. Central image and has branches, as they talk about here. I've talked about here. The branches comprise a key image or a key word that's drawn. So again, that branch is talking really specific to color. Now, this was seeing some other examples of where these come from. The branches comprise, the topics of lesser importance are represented as twigs. So these are twigs. Can kind of gather that relevant to the branch. And then the branches form a connected nodal structure. So again, they're all interconnected. So you can kind of see those all intertwined between each other. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of these other recommendations from that as well. Again, and then here's our subtopic. So you can have a third branch. So you can have your central theme, your subheading, your subtopics, or what we look at a second branch, and then even your third branch. So a lot of this is, it depends on what you're doing and what you're trying to focus on. Okay, there we go. So what's the value of mind mapping? So the image on your screen, it really highlights a lot of that as well. Mind mapping is shown to help with collaboration. It helps, the benefits provide easy to memorize, it's simple, it's fast, it's fun, it helps with planning. So looking at projects, goals, or strategies. It helps with creativity, fosters ideas, innovation, and thoughts, and productivity. It tends to be more efficient and intuitive, again, following the way our brain thinks. And it tends to be a pretty effective way of getting thoughts out of your brain. As I mentioned earlier, it literally maps out ideas on a paper or on your computer screen to really understand where things are associated with one another. What are the benefits of mind mapping? So from a research-based or science-based, oftentimes you may see mind mapping as compared to the map of a city, which I have an image of this here. The idea is that you're starting from the central, so think about your maps, your city maps. You represent, and then you have the central area where you're going to, and then you have your main roads that are going to your specific area. And then again, you have your side roads, any of those other things that ultimately all lead to that central area that perhaps you're trying to get to on a map. But the great thing about mind mapping is that there's no certain order it has to be done in. As soon as ideas pop into your head, you can put them down. So you're not constrained by any type of order with that. But they're just really there to help you get the ideas on paper, and then you can reorganize those later as you need. But some additional things that the research has found is that mind mapping focuses on a subject and organizing the thoughts. It helps with recalling, helps with improving creativity. It also has a place as a lifelong learning tools, and helps with problem solving. It's also been found to help with writing skills, improve productivity. Again, helps with partner engagement, memorization, and retention. So it just has a lot of great benefits if it's something you find to be valuable to use. Okay, so some examples. I might go through some of these a little bit faster, just since I kind of got going here a little bit later. This is a research study that was conducted to understand the application of mind mapping based health education in extended care for children with dental caries. And so basically what they did, they studied a prospective study of 159 eligible children with caries. And really what they did is use mind mapping. They received health education through mind mapping. And so basically what they found with this was mind mapping was effective in implementation of extended care. Information was more accessible to children and their parents, and included increasing their compliance with health education. And so there's a lot on this screen I'll show you, but this is an example of a mind map they used to provide health education for dental caries. And so again, their main topic was continuing care of dental caries in children, their branches, caries related factors, diagnosis and treatment guidelines, and change dietary structure. So again, I think part of this value of that health education piece is it's visual. You have that, and it really helps to, this helped to really guide health education for the parents with their children. There's also an example of one that's more recently I found used in health coaching. So here's a case report was done through organization that worked with a large healthcare organization in the Midwest, and basically they offered some group health and wellness coaching to a select group of employees. They had 5 sessions for employees who participated in this leadership development cohort. And so they went through various different data collection pieces and health coaching sessions. But one of the things that they did use in this is that they were invited to use mind mapping techniques during the session 3, to creatively brainstorm and explore the topic of energy renewal and drains using a holistic perspective. And then after they completed those mind maps, the group was invited to create some initial action steps. So what this study found, they didn't have any specific outlines showing me a mind map that I could find through the literature, but specifically they just found overall in this study, the leaders who participated in this group coaching were able to gain self-awareness through a holistic approach, understand the importance of self-care and stress management, and explore energy management, create SMART goals, experiment with action steps, and address barriers and obstacles. And so this is just a picture. This isn't a mind map, but this is show you of a health and well-being wheel that they used as part of that, that was used along with a mind map for their process. And then also mind mapping has been used with physical therapy. So I thought this one was really interesting to highlight. So clinicians have used it to open conversations with their clients about how impairments influence ability to access community and achieve their goals. During conversations such as treatment session, the clinicians guide clients in creating their own individualized mind map. And in practice, mind mapping has been found to stimulate greater patient engagement, provide opportunity for clinicians to offer additional education regarding rehab, and spark some new directions of rehabilitative plan of care. So this may be a little bit hard to see, but you can see on the right side of your screen, this is where a patient did. So their theme they wanted to do is back to where they were before stroke. And so they really helped that patient think through, help them guide their treatment, individualized treatment plans using that mind map. There's a lot of different uses for a mind map. A couple years ago, Sarah Quayle, who's the cancer programs coordinator with the South Dakota Cancer Coalition, the cancer program used mind mapping to brainstorm for job tasks and job roles. Found that to really help them update the scope of work for the position to better fit their long-term goals. Here's just some examples. These are ones that were created through some various internal planning sessions, and even last year I presented on this topic. So these are some visual images that I created after today, which you'll see some of that after the fact today. But tobacco program used this between 2019 2020 to help with their state tobacco program. Last year, one of the breakout groups focused on healthy workplaces, and they're really looking at focusing on answering the question, what is needed to link community and clinical services for better health in South Dakota? And so they found technology advancements, built environment, employee experiences, culture, and then these would be those sub-themes supporting that. There was also one on self-care, again, answering that question, what is needed to link community and clinical services for better health in South Dakota? And again, focusing on during COVID, men, underserved populations, and women. So that just gives you an idea of what is mind mapping, how it's used, the value of it. So now I'm just going to kind of go through and look at the time here. I think we're about end on time with me. So I'm going to go through this, and then we're going to get you started on your own mind mapping. So first of all, you want to start in the center of the main concept theme. Your main concept to be something typically described in a keyword. It could have a few keywords or sometimes even an image. If you're drawing it or even using computer generated, you have a large central area. And if you're in person, it helps. You can have a large piece of paper if you want, and people can work through that. But the idea is to be creative, free-flowing, spread out those collective ideas. And typically what they found is that images or pictures are used to enhance that central idea and sub-themes. And we tend to remember those things better than just a bunch of words. And it helps keeps us focused, sparks our imagination, really helps to keep things flowing. And then you're going to look at identifying those relevant topics. So again, those sub-themes like we talked about, these are those branches. So this particular mind map's focused on health. Well, the branches are looking at a diet and stress. So you may, if you're doing this by hand, you may draw lines or branches out for that central image or word. You think of subheadings, important facts or tasks that may relate to that subject. Typically, you want to limit those to some short phrases or a keyword. Again, thinking about how our mind works. If it was a sentence long, I don't think we typically would remember that. So the idea with mind mapping, again, is those branches, and those sub branches tend to be those short words or keep one keyword. And then you just want to label those for your subheadings. And then ultimately, you're going to dive deeper. Those main branches, and we talked about this earlier, are linked to a central image and connect the lower level branches. Then you can dive deeper in the subject and uncover those next level of information. So here we have health. Then we have those branches or those sub-themes or those sleep. And then we're going out more to those twigs, getting deeper into those additional sub-themes. And this really helps you uncover really what you're trying to understand. Again, you're looking at those keywords or images, helps to develop and elaborate an overall theme of the mind map. We also see variance in color, and we tend to remember those things. We talked about that before. Also, the recommendation is to try and limit it to at least 2 points for each sub-theme you created and create branches out to those. So for example, this is sleep. And then we're looking at insomnia. So we only have, I guess they have 2 or 3 here, but as I'll show you on the next slide, we tend to get overwhelmed if we have too much on there. And so really it's kind of helping to focus those ideas. This is an example where there's too many associations. So for me, it's super busy. So we don't know where one goes to the next. And as I highlighted here on the next slide, our mind tends to only grasp about 7 associations. So this is too many associations. It's too much. So again, trying to kind of refine some of those things that you're doing. And then just some tips. Some keywords are used, as I mentioned before, branches to explain the concept it represents and help the reader understand the logic and flow of connections. I mentioned this earlier, but curved lines are often recommended for mind maps. That's how our brain thinks. And it's free flowing, they're not rigid, and allows for those connections to be drawn, may impact multiple areas. And again, this may be easier on when you're doing it in person on a big piece of paper. Colors, as I mentioned earlier, are used throughout, help stimulate our brain. And then also the length of the word, I talked about this before too, tends to ideally match the length of that line or that branch. And again, that helps with association for those words that are in proximity as well. So with that, we're going to give you some opportunity to do this yourselves. So I'm just going to get you started here, and then Enid's going to give you a little bit overview as we're starting to break you into breakout rooms. But really what we're having you do today are develop mind maps that address the conference theme, which is engaging the workforce in times of change. And Enid's going to give you a little bit of overview with this on her next slide. But basically, and I'll give you some more instructions after she's done talking, but basically what we've identified are 3 specific topic areas that we're inviting you to join in a breakout room to develop a mind map. But then we're also inviting you to share some additional topics. There's 30 of you on the call today, so ideally we'd love to have 5 to 6 breakout rooms. But like I said, right now we've identified 3 topics that we invite you to identify if that's something you want to join or not. And I'll give you more instructions as we move forward with that as well. Then we're also going to invite you to share some additional topics as we move forward with that. But in the meantime, I'm going to pass it off to Enid and give her some opportunity to kind of talk through why we're doing it from this perspective as well.
Yes, so thanks, Sandy. As we know, all parts of wellness had a shakeup this year. How we work out, what we eat, the way we rest, our financial well-being, our emotional well-being, the preventative care we get. These are just a few that I'm listing here. They had an impact on us, and they will continue to have an impact as we move through the next few years and so on. But we as a committee met this past year, and mind mapping became a topic of interest. So we wanted to focus on some of the top trends in 2021, and these were just a few that we voted on as our committee that we wanted to bring into mind mapping and break out into groups and get more of your feedback. So what are you as worksite seeing within, and how can we assist in the future? And I have the 3 listed here on the slides that Sandy has pulled up here. So that's where we're starting with. And if there's additional ones, we want them put in the chat, and we can work with those and break down with those. I know, like she said, our participation here is down to about 29. So we'll want to break out. So we can add a few more questions if anybody has any that we want to put in there that we want to talk about. But it really came down to our committee coming up with these 3 top, voting them in.
Thanks, Enid. So as Enid mentioned, the committee identified 3 breakout rooms. So we will have a breakout room for these 3 topics, but we would invite you to share some additional topics if you have any that you would like to develop a mind map around. Ideally, we don't want one person in a breakout room, but if you have some additional topics that you think you'd like to address beyond what these 3 are, you can put in the chat or take yourself off mute and share it with me, and I'm going to type it up on the screen here. And then after this, we're going to have you assign you to breakout rooms, and you're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so working on developing a mind map. So if you have any other ideas, we'd welcome you to share that. Looks like we got one in the chat. How can a work site address mental health? Okay, great.
There's another one in there too. Do you see that one?
I do not. What's that?
Oh, it's coming to me direct. How can employer focus on diversity and inclusion?
Great. Let's try to get one more. If anybody has any. If you don't, that's fine too. Okay, so we're gonna have those 5 then. Let's, Enid, you got any others?
No, not that I see in the chat.
Okay. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Hopefully, I'm sure we've been on Zoom for the last, I don't know, what are we, 2 years now? Something like that. To make sure you're able to go to the one that you want to. And again, we wanna try not just have one person in a group. We wanna have it. We'd love to have 4 or 5 in a group. Now we have about 20, Enid said about 29 participants. So if you look at your screen, and hopefully you've done this before, you can hover over and you see the top 3, there's 3 little dots, and then it lets you rename yourself. Now I'm asking you is to click on those top 3 dots, and you'll see at the bottom, it says rename yourself. I would like you to rename yourself to which group you would like to go to. And then once you've done that, I will assign you to the breakout room. So any questions on how to rename yourself? So just hover over the top right corner of your screen. You'll see 3 dots. And then if you go to that, down to the bottom, it'll let you rename yourself. So I just need to know your number, which number of the group you'd like to go to. And you'll just have to be a little patient with us, and Enid will kind of give you some more overview about worksite stuff, and then we'll get you moved over. So
yeah, and you can also, if you pull up the participants, you can hover over the more and of your name and rename it that way too. There we go. Give them a few seconds here to get it.
So just a reminder, if you're just jumping on, if you haven't done it, I need you to ask that you identify which number of breakout room you'd like to go to, and then we will move you into those to work on a mind map. Looks like there's a handful of you haven't renumbered yourself yet. So if you do not do that, we will just put you in something. But if there's something specific you'd like to go to, let me know. Okay, looks like I'm not getting any more changes. All right, for those of you who didn't select a number, we're just gonna put you in something and hopefully you'll enjoy that. I do need to stop sharing so I can get you set up here. So I'm gonna, while I'm doing that, Enid, perhaps want to give some additional overview about some of the worksite wellness direction that you're going with the program.
Yeah, so we want you to be engaging in this breakout. We know our numbers are down on this end of the day, but if you could give feedback in the group, we can take that back and work with that and see where we want to go with what is discussed and down in the future, and how we can engage with the work sites. Do you need help, Sandy?
Nope, I'm doing good. You may want to sing. I don't know. Give me just a second.
No, I can touch base on, we are going to have some additional, or we're going to be updating the websites. So Healthy SD will have a new look, and Good and Healthy will be having a new look. Touch base on the Workwell mental grant. That'll be out there here in October. we will have another round of the Workwell grants coming out in the beginning of the year as well. Just trying to think of all the new things, or maybe some of you have already applied for those in previous years, so you already know about them, but you can find that information out on the Good and Healthy sites. One thing too is when we send out the PDF of the slides and the resources that we put together, a lot of that information is on there. So take a look at that. And then at the end of the slide, there is a scavenger hunt where you'll be able to participate in 3 questions and submit them back to me within a week. And we'll do a little drawing for a mail out of a ergonomic mouse and mouse pad for you. So kind of fun to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I got a couple in the chat. Just put them in a group.
Everybody should be moved now. Some of you, you didn't have anything, so I just put you in a group. We have a little bit smaller in room 2, but you should be in a group. And so what we're going to do here, once I open these rooms, you're going to, Enid, could you put the mind map in the chat? The file? Yep. All right. So what Enid's doing is putting a mind map template in the chat. There will be facilitators in all of your groups that are part of our internal team. So they will be helping to moderate your session. And so I'm going to just show my slides one more time here, and we're going to show you the instructions here. So basically, what we're going to ask you to do is to develop a mind map around a topic that addresses that question you've all talked about. And I'll put those back into the chat when you get back into your groups. But really, we're going to ask you to develop a mind map around that. And once you've done that, we're going to invite you to come back to the larger group and report out on that. And the mind map template that Enid's putting in the chat, again, the moderators for your groups will be the one facilitating and utilizing that tool, and they will share their screen with you as you develop that. Any questions before we move you?